Hello my friends and welcome back. Welcome to our next video. Today in our next installment of taking a look at spell animations, we're going to be taking a look at the Priest class today. That includes Shadow Spec, Discipline, and Holy. We're going to go ahead and jump right in first, taking a look at Shadow. As you can see, for starters, casting Shadow Form still looks the same, just puts that purple glow around you, and you fade and become quite transparent. Casting any holy spells will bring you out of Shadow Form. Now, before we go any further, it is worth mentioning that if you glyph into it, it makes your Shadow Form less transparent, so more of a purple, less see-through. So if you're into that sort of thing with the glyph of Shadow, it's there for you still. Shadow Priests, I feel like priests in general actually have a lot of glyphs that change the way a lot of their spells look. For example, Glyph of Angels, your healing spells momentarily grant you angelic wings. When you cast Devouring Plague on a target with Dark Archangel, you take on the form of a Dark Archangel for 8 seconds. Glyph of Heavens, levitate targets, appears to be riding a cloud. So all sorts of kind of stuff like that with the Glyph of Shah. Transforms your Shadow Fiend or a Mindbender into a Shah Beast. So lots of fun stuff like that you can mess around with that change the way your priest looks. One of my personal favorite things to glyph for is the glyph of Shadowy Friends. Your Shadow Form extends to your non-combat pet. So if I'm not mistaken, we summon our Corehound, go into Shadow Form, and oh look, now we have a Shadow Corehound. Da-da-da! But we're going to head and just keep looking now at our spells and abilities. First, we're going to take a look at Shadow Word Pain. So as you can see, still that same little effect, the purple and green effect there in our hands as we're casting it, with the blue flash occasionally. Looks like that is when the Surge of Dominance procs actually, so never mind, ignore that. As you can see, the same purple and green effect over our hands as we cast it, as well as on the target, and as it ticks for damage, we see the little burst there around the target every time it hits. Pretty cool. Mind Blast. Mind Blast, if you glyph into it, I'm sorry, not glyph, if you talent into Clarity of Power, it does make your Mind Blast instant. So if you do not take that talent, then you will still have a cast time on it. For the time being, I have glyphed into it, which is why, again, there's no cast time on it. Let's take a look at Devouring Plague. So as you can see, there's the simple animation, and yet we see our wings pop up that give us the Dark Archangel form. I'm a pretty big fan of that. I like stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and just pop that back up again. Take a look at Mind Shear. So still the purple ray there with the swirlies around it, and as we can see, our aberrations are flying towards the target. Now it's also worth mentioning our shadow orbs. As you can see, we have the ravens floating around us because of the glyph of Shadow Ravens. It replaces the orbs with ravens around us. Again, stuff like that I'm a fan of, so I'm all about those glyphs. Devouring Plague, just a simple shadow animation around the target. Let's take a look at Mind Spike. So that's still same animation. Let's get closer to the target real quick so we can see. So still see the little arrows there that are poking into the target. Just take the 1, 2 jab down. Let's take a look at Mind Flay. Very similar to the Mind Shear, a little more erratic or sporadic in its animation. See some blue and some extra tendrils in there, as opposed to Mind Shear, which is more of a straight beam. Almost looks more like a laser beam. Of course, the cool thing of Mind Shear is that you can still cast it onto friendly targets as they're going around, and it still bounces off and does the damage to other targets as well. Now looking at our Shadow Fiend, so as you can see, still has that Shadow Beast look to it. Of course, you can glyph into it to make it look like a Shah, which we will do a little bit later after it comes off cooldown. Let's take a look at Vampiric Touch. A little cast time there, and then we see just the purple haze around the target. So not a whole lot flashy or spectacular, in your face dynamic animations like a Warlock. Again, very simple, stealthy, and subtle. I guess subtle is the better word, the word I'm looking for. More subtle animations which I think is one of the things about Shadow Priest, that unless you know what you're looking for, there's nothing really that grabs your attention, that makes you realize you're being bombarded. And I think that's part of the appeal to Shadow Priest. They're definitely a subtle casting class, and right now they're doing a lot of damage. Take a look at Power Word Shield. So still the same effect, the bubble around us with the little stars that flicker off our body there. Take a look at Vampiric Embrace. So that's more of an animation on us. As you can see, there was the purple pulsations there around our character. The vibrations, the waves almost. Take a look at Void Tendrils. So you can see the tentacles come up and grab a hold of our targets. Everything that's around us. And damage, of course, does still break it. Psychic Scream. So that one's got a little bit of a range on it. Still 30-yard range, just kind of intense for a fear. Fear Ward. So the circled shadow runes are around us for a brief moment. Mass Dispel. Drop it wherever you want it. Cast time, and just you see the little rune there pop up and burst outwards. How about Fade? So Fade puts up a little bit more enhanced transparent version of ourselves. Let's take a look real quick at our Shadow Fiend after the Shawglyph. So there is, as you can see, little shawling over there, the Shadow Fiend, but he looks all shot out. Let's take a look real quick at our talents. So for in our level 15 tier, we have Desperate Prayer, Spectral Guise, and Angelic Bulwark. We're gonna look at Spectral Guise for Shadow here really quick. As you can see, he puts us in stealth. We're creeping along, doing our thing, and there's our Shadowy Remnant trying to fool the enemy player or target into thinking we are there when we're not. Body and Soul is a passive talent that increases your movement speed when you cast Power Word Shield on your target. Phantasm simply removes all movement impairing effects on you, so again with that. Angelic Feather we're going to save for Discipline. So moving on down to our level 45 tier, Surge of Darkness. Just affects our spells, adding different effects to them. And take a look at Psychic Scream. We've already looked at Void Tendrils a little bit, so we'll look at Psychic Scream really quick. That's another instant fear. This one costs mana rather than Shadow Orbs, if I'm not mistaken, yes. As opposed to our Psychic Horror. So Psychic Scream simply AoE fear that we instant cast with a 45-second cooldown. Everything around us runs terrified. Twist of Fate. After damaging a target below 35% health, you deal 15% increased damage and healing for 10 seconds. We're going to take a look at Power Infusion on our Discipline spec. Shadowy Insight, your Shadow Word Pain, damage over time, and Mind Spike damage has a 5% chance to reset the cooldown on Mind Blast and make your next Mind Blast instant. So again, no activation there on those spells. Let's take a look at Halo. Halo still functions the same, puts out a massive wave around you that does most of its damage at 25 yards. Goes 30 yards, I'm sorry, but it does have the greatest effect once it hits 25 yards. So definitely something you want to use when your target is farther away. In case you're wondering what that little frost mark that occasionally appears over the top of my head is, it is the proccing of our weapon enchant. Every once in a while it'll proc, you'll see it. And so that's that. It has nothing to do with Shadow Priest exclusively, but I thought it was worth mentioning in case there was any questions about that. Alright, let's take a look at our Mindbender now that I've remembered to unglyph from the Shawling. So again, same look and effect that we have now on live. Just looks like that demon squid thing, so as long as it's attacking the target, not me, we won't have any problems. Don't want that thing latching onto my face. Let's take a look now at Divine Star, our middle talent in the level 90 tier. So that one shoots, does damage to all targets in the way of your initial target, and then bounces back and hits everything that's back in its path again. So that one can be kind of fun if you're lining up targets right. It's pretty situational. Obviously, to get like the maximum use out of it, you obviously aren't just gonna like throw it around. I don't know. It's not something that is going to be the best, I think, for all situations. But depending on your situation, of course, it could be good. I can see it being a little bit better in PvE than PvP. But I also don't play a Shadow Priest on live or high end at the moment, so who knows, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. That's possible. Let's take a look at Cascade now. Cascade's kind of cool as it launches a shadowy bolt that grows in power with distance and damaging an enemy up to 10,364, and then bouncing to additional enemies 4 times each time it bounces. It splits into 2 bolts, never damaging the same target twice. So again, very interesting choice. I don't know if it would necessarily be something that would be good for arenas. As you can see, it just goes everywhere and does its thing. I really like the way that looks. I think that's cool. I can see that being really cool, like in big AoE pulls in like a raid or something. Just seeing this thing bounce around like crazy for a little bit and just hitting everything. But who knows? Maybe it would be good in arenas, especially against hunters or things like that doing damage. It just seems like a big old massive pain in the butt to try to keep CC down on targets and things like that, so probably wouldn't be your ideal talent for an arena, I wouldn't think. We've already looked at Clarity of Power, and that it just makes your Mind Spike, Mind Seer, and Shadow Word Death deal 40% additional damage to targets not affected by Shadow Word Pain or Vampiric Touch. Also reduces the cooldown of Mind Blast by 3 seconds and makes it an instant cast. So let's take a look at Void Entropy. So it consumes all of your Shadow Orbs to do 50,226 damage over 1 minute. That's kind of a long duration for a dot, especially because I would imagine it can be dispelled. But we'll take a look and we'll find out. Void Entropy. So there's that. Ticks quite often too. Pretty big effect on the target that you can see. I can see this being pretty overwhelming though. Especially if you can build up Shadow Orbs quicker. A minute's a long duration for any like debuff or any dot like that. That's pretty crazy. And of course, Suspicious Spirits. Your shadowy apparitions grant you 1 Shadow Orb instead of dealing damage. So this could be your solution to stacking or getting Shadow Orbs if it's something you feel like you struggle with. But again, not too much of an animation there because again, it is affected by your shadowy apparitions, which we're familiar with anyways. In all honesty, looking at Shadow Priest just from maybe an outsider's perspective, for someone who's never really played them high end, looking at Void Entropy or Auspicious Spirits, those seem like they would be the talents of choice for Shadow Priest at the moment at least, but who knows. Because obviously having more Shadow Orbs is a great thing because it allows you to keep your Devouring Plague up, which of course increases your survivability. Mordots are always good. And of course, Void Entropy just seems like it's a great talent. Long-lasting debuff. Yeah, we'll see. Alright, so let's take a look now at Discipline spec for our Priest. As you can see, Shadow Word Pain still looks the same. We have access to Holy Fire, which does just as you would expect and still does on live. Calls down fire from heaven to smite thine opponent. Probably because they deserved it. Then we have Smite. So still, it looks like a holy slap. It's a little fish slap. We have, of course, Power Word Shield. Does the same thing. Has the little glowy, orby, eggy effect around it. We have Dispel Magic, which has the same effect there. The swirling effect around the target, and then the burst at the top. Let's take a look at Prayer of Healing. So still has the cast time, and then the burst with the sparkles at the end of it. Take a look at Angelic Feather. So still, as you can see, places the feather on the ground, and you walk over it, and then you can run really fast. I feel like the duration lasts a long time. It's a pretty cool talent. Flash of Light. So similar to the Paladin skill, obviously, just feel like the animation is different for the Priest, or at least, yeah, the spell animation. Which is kind of cool that there's a little bit of that differentiating there. Just our standard heal, same cast animation, and then there's the circle at our feet with the effect. How about Levitate? So there, because we've glyphed for it. If I can show you Glyph of the Heavens, we have the cloud at our feet. Let's take a look at Penance. So still the same effect that we're familiar with, the channeling. Let's heal this rogue over here for no apparent reason. How about Prayer of Mending? Oops, sorry. Meant to hit Prayer of Mending. So that one still shoots the bolt there at the target. Or I guess it's every time you take damage you heal. It's not a hot, but it's every time you take damage you do heal. Holy Nova. This is new to the priests in the sense that it was taken away, now it is back. So it's our spammable AoE heal. Let's take a look at some of our talents real quick. We have Desperate Prayer. Let's take a look real quick at Power Infusion. So there's the Holy Fire that seems to erupt from underneath us and increases our haste, and mana cost of spells is reduced by 20%. Let's take a look at Clarity of Will. This is our first choice in our level 100 talent. This one's kind of cool looking because it puts a protective ward around the target, and the bubble effect on it is pretty cool. So it puts that pulsating, radiating looking multicolored shield around the target that does absorb damage. Pretty cool. It looks like you can have it up on multiple targets at the same time too, which is pretty cool. It doesn't really take a whole lot of your mana either, so that kind of stuff's always nifty. Cascade functions obviously as a heal instead of a damaging ability there, which is pretty cool. So there you see it bouncing around and doing its thing, which is pretty nifty, I think. Let's get pain suppression real quick. So that one's still pretty much the same effect. It's got the bubble again around us. A lot of eggshell looking stuff here with the radiating sparkles again. Just that with that soft blue feel to it though. It's pretty cool. I do like how distinct a lot of these spells are compared to some of the other classes. Our silence there. Let's look at Divine Star really quick. So as you can see, it runs and it heals all the targets in its way. So that's kind of cool. Pretty short cooldown too on it. And how about Saving Grace? Instantly heals a friendly target for 51,335, reducing your absorbs and healing down by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. That's interesting. So it's got a positive and a negative to it. It's a massive instant heal, but it reduces the effectiveness of absorbs and healings. So obviously it's not something you're going to want to spam, but it can be kind of cool and good for those quick get out of jail free cards for a brief moment there. And lastly, let's take a look at Halo as a discipline priest. So it's not going to have the purple effect there around us, but instead it's going to have the golden yellow effect, obviously, because you're not shadow, so you're not going to be doing damage, but again, everything is holy and healing, and so it makes sense that the feel and aesthetic would be different. Let's look at Archangel, which you can see puts the wings up around us again, and it increases crit chance and healing, and it just everything goes crazy, and numbers are flying everywhere, and it's insane. I like it. And then let's take a look real quick at Power Word Barrier. So this one, drop the barrier on the ground. Looks almost like a planet. You just drop like a little planet in the ground there and just hide in it. Absorbs or reduces all damage taken by 25%, and your spellcasting cannot be interrupted by damage. Alright, now let's take a look at the Holy Priest. As you can see, the chakras are still up. Nothing really fancy, just the little rune at the foot of the priest there that indicates obviously which color and which chakra you're going to be activating. So we saw the blue one, there's yellow, or I should say, I'm sorry, Serenity, and the blue one being Sanctuary, and the red being Chastise. So again, it's almost like a stance bar again, but of course if you play a priest you're familiar with this. So let's just jump right into what our spells look like. We have Renew, which as you can see just kind of puts the little dot on us and does its thing. Binding Heal. So you see Binding Heal heals the target and us. There is Holy Word Chastise. Incapacitates the target for 3 seconds. Does a little bit of holy damage. Divine Hymn. That's our channel spell there. See the musical notes erupting from the priest as she sings her song. Quite lovely indeed. Actually, I don't know what the song sounds like. if it sounds like anything. I have the game volume turned down. Lightwell. Lightwell, drop it down there. That looks cool. Look at that. Looks like a spinny top of healing power. That's actually really cool. I've never been that close to a Lightwell, or I've never been able to stop and pay attention to it long enough to admire that. That looks really cool. Circle of Healing still functions the same. Curve Mending as well. Let's take a look at some of our talents, because some of our talents do change for Holy. We now have Power Word Solace, which, as you can see, shoots out, does some damage, and if I'm not mistaken, bounces back. Again, it does replace Holy Fire, so if you spec into that, you'll no longer have Holy Fire. If you don't, you'll have Holy Fire. Let's look at Clarity of Purpose. Does have a cast time, but that's a cool looking effect. I like that. It does abrupt, it's flashy. I'm a fan. That's kind of cool looking. Let's take a look real quick at Guardian Spirit. So that puts, oh dang, those are some gnarly looking cool wings on our target there. That's kind of crazy. Increases healing received, and it prevents a killing blow on a 2-minute cooldown. Have Priest always had that? Why do I feel like that's new? Let me know in the comments if any of you play a Priest and can confirm if Priests have had that. Why does that feel new? But then at the same time, now I'm questioning myself. It is worth mentioning that while we are in our Chakra Stance Serenity, that we have access to the Holy Word Serenity skill, which instantly heals the target for 22,239 and increases the critical effect chance of your healing spells on the target by 25% for 6 seconds. Of course, Chastise comes from Chakra Chastise. I suppose that should be worth mentioning. Shouldn't probably skip over that stuff. And then Chakra Serenity, which gives us Holy Word Serenity. Blesses the ground with Divine Light, healing up to 6 allies for 525 every, 1.88 seconds for 30 seconds. So yeah, so that is the Priest class, looking at Shadow, Discipline, and Holy spec. Definitely some cool looking spell animations there, I think, that really set the Priest apart from other classes. Dang, Dwarf. Rude, walking through my Corehound pup like that. Don't act like you don't know we're recording. Jeez. Dude just wanted his 5 seconds of fame. Oh my gosh, and the Baker too. Really? I mean, come on. Alright, you know what? I'm going to end this video before any more dwarves walk through. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button if you did enjoy it. And we will catch you guys next time.